Hi everyone, I'm Guy Helmers, creator of Get Rich, and I'm going to show you how to draw Wolfgang. Now, this is going to be a pretty loose video, but I'm going to be showcasing just sort of my workflow and just talk about some of the more specific attributes of Wolfgang for replication quality. So pretty well all of my characters start with a little function I've got here, which makes skin at the bottom, followed by the pants layer, then the shirt layer, hands layer, which is just skin but over top, detail layer, face layer, and then face structure, which is just a functional layer, just in case you need to, you're struggling getting the body shape. I'm going to use the face structure actually for my sketch lines, which is where I start with first. So I've got bright red. I have a pencil brush from one of my things that I've bought online. And then you're just going to start with, I'll make it a little bit brighter for you guys. The structure. So I'm not very good. I'm not an artist, so I usually start with just really rough sketchiness, and I refine it a lot later when I'm doing my finalizing. I always start with a perfectly round head, unless I'm doing different weight characters and whatnot with special features. But by default, Wolfgang and Hayes are both round head. Then you start from the neck, and you try and get a nice curve, swanky sort ofness to the lines of the body, and this, of course, gets you your form. So there's the feet here, and then you can go for like a nice legs arch. As I stand, I don't really need it to be that curvaceous of hips, but we'll leave it at that. I'll just get a little eraser action in here. That's a little bit better. And then I'm not the absolute best at all this, but you can go for some arms there. Just do little arms. And then it's weird drawing them with absolutely no particular definition to what's going on, no context. So then I just draw the pants line, shirt line, hands can be right there, and if we're doing the tail, then you go for the tail, and it goes down. I like to draw the face lines, because of course you could go like that, and now he's looking that way. You can go like that, it looks like that. You can go like that, and he's looking up. But we'll undo all those. Here we go. So I'm going to turn down the opacity of this a little bit more, so it's more my flavor. And then you hit the skin. So then here's, I have to do a big change, so I switch to pressure, increase the flow, change the thing to just the standard Photoshop tool. It's just, of course, simple and easy. And then we start with the head, because if you don't have the head right, then you're not going to have anything else right. Now this style is meant for animation. Here I'm using a little tool where you wand and then it goes through anim fill, so it expands by a couple pixels, clicks the clear button, and which is this color here, and there you go. The animation, or the style, was made for animation. So then, see, you notice I didn't do the shoulders quite the way that I normally do. The head usually just sort of curves in, and then the shoulders come out very close after. Meant for animation, and I felt that the style does well when it's sort of does look a little bit wobbly and inexact. Adds to the charm. I guess I can just... and so with that, you know, you have sort of a lot of leeway to sort of do a bad job, and it'll still look pretty alright. You just need to do a consistently bad job. Here's the tail. I'm sort of rushing this because I want to be sort of simple and sweet. For the ears, this is where you sort of finalize the curvature of his head, but I always start a little bit above his head, and the ears, they curve perfectly down and into the circle of his head. I think these are a little bit too overdone here, like this. It's an inexact science here. They just need to look like part of him rather than like, you know, wow, just, you know, unnecessarily huge, because they do contribute to the width of his head. Like right here is the middle, but of course that's where the ears have been added. I'm still not liking that top one here that much. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So here his ears, and I guess because his tail is this way, he's probably a little bit more that way, because, so we've got one hair, then there's two, which will go over, down, 3 down, and then 4 over here. And then we can switch to the pants. Now Wolfgang has some jeans, so then slap those guys in. It's going to look sort of weird at first because you're drawing through the sketch lines, but you get a sense for it eventually. Make those a little bit thicker down there. And then wand and fill. And of course you want to clean up any of that like ridiculous globby errors that you're doing. Shirt. Now here's another key thing. So you go, oops, stupid layers. So you go from, do his neck, and his neck, you know, crevice should be fairly low hanging, but then his arms ones should be significantly lower. And then we'll just sloppily throw this together. Wow, you're such a great artist. I can see where the quality of your work comes from. Probably shouldn't be that, because we're just looking pretty forward looking here. Can round this out a bit more, and then I like to just slice the top of his shirt so that it has sort of a stark line as it quote-unquote rolls over his shoulders. And then what you can do is you can also then go into the skin and then just slice it a little bit so it's a little bit more prominent and realized. So here we go. There's that. Now, oops. On my layers, I don't have a shoes layer because I almost never have to do the shoes. So I usually just pop the shoes and then say that because I'm streaming and trying to be cool. Oh, I'm going to put it over pants because Wolfgang has boots. So then boots, try and have a little bit of depth, you know, pointed forward, not quite, not sideways. Of course, you can refine that a lot better when you're not rushing. shirt. And then hands, I don't have really anything for hands. You know, if you were to go for, say, you know, Wolfgang pointing at you and being like, whoa, you know, thumb and finger pointing at you, that's where it comes in, or like, you know, cross-armed, you know. So, but that's unnecessary. I'm just going to delete this layer because who cares? And now for the details. See, we're almost done drawing them. So I usually just go for the skin because it's a nice base. You know, you go like that, so then you've got the difference between the arms and the thing. If you want, you can give him a little bit of a chin there. Dissect the tail from the arm, give the tail a little swoop. Give him his two little hip bones and his belly button. Separate his body from his things. Put the little finger knuckles in. I'm, you know, not trying to be particularly high detail here, because I mean, you'd also give him his little cleft here, and I like to, when it's visually indicated, I like to give him his tuft of hair, always at where there's a curve out, so this curve is here. But then we'll go back to detailing. Skin is also usually the most detail you do, so then you go 2, 3, and 4, and then you go for the ear. Now the ear starts at the top base of his skull, goes up, down, and then swoops along the curvature of that base circle of his head. I usually do it in a nice little, just quick slap of a gesture, because then it gives you the really nice, gives you the nice stark little sharp swoops. So here we go with that. The shirt I rarely have detail on, but sometimes if you need to do like a squiggly like that, you can do that. Pants, he has a buckle, which is that, and then he's got his belt through the loops, which are basically duplicates of the buckle, just filled in this time. And of course that just depends on how you're feeling. If he's, you know, sometimes you can just have one belt on each side, whatever is going on. For the shoes, you know, if you're having an overlap, not that you are in this case, but then there's that detail. Then there's his pie necklace, which is just those two. Then on his left hand, but on the right side visually, is a little watch. And then on his right hand, he's got a double bracelet. So here we go, that's the whole Wolfgang without the face. And then we can do his nose. He doesn't have a animal cleft. That's just an aesthetic choice. And we'll just give him a smile, just for the sake of it. I mean, this is where you can give him, you know, big chin and really overdo his face, but we don't need to do that because that's on a basis, on a face-by-face basis. And I've grown to determine, as I've been drawing, that they have the sort of typical old Disney oval eyes. Of course, I would spend a lot more time, you know, making them a little bit more accurate than this. This is usually the biggest bastard for me, is just getting the eyes to look somewhat even. They never are perfectly even, but move this guy. Deselect. He doesn't always have eyebrows, but you can give him eyebrows. Then give him the little bags under his eyes. And then dots. And then in this case for him, we're going for the little glisten there. And there you go. Let's remove the face structure. And although this is like really, really rushed, there you go. You've got Wolfgang. If I were to be critiquing someone, I would say increase the legs to torso, slightly shrink the head. But the ears look good. The hair's decent. The tail, I would say thin it, because of course it's coming from here and going like that. And so then it would be sort of more like that. Hands way more expressive. Stance needs to be a little bit further in, you know, something a little bit more comfortable looking. Because usually you can just keep the outsides pretty straight and bring it in. But yeah, none of that is necessary right now because it's a rush, and I hope you got to witness a little bit of how I get my work done in this comic/cartoon. So good luck drawing Wolfgang and doing your thing.